A sane and realistic look at Valkyrie Elysium by KBash. This is the last game, I think, for the Valkyrie series. So yeah, let's see. I've read a review of this not being that good. Not a bad game, but not being that good. I don't know. We'll jump in, I guess. Also, please consider liking and subscribing. I appreciate it. We'll look at it. We'll look at it. So the first one was good. The second one was not like the first one, but still good. The one on the DS had story relevancy, but at the end of the day, there was really that nothing to offer aside from that. So yeah, we'll see. Big Game's new free game for today is Skull against the Black Priory. Okay.
If you boil down Valkyrie Profile to its base elements, I mean, really got at the heart of the series, you'd probably find things like hope for humanity, struggling against fate, and strength in cooperation. These concepts are at the core of many JRPGs. The Valkyrie, the world, the mythical...
Wasn't that just Xenoblade Chronicles X? What's a cutscene from Xenoblade Chronicles X? I have my own shiny Golisopod. I have multiple shiny Alpha Wimpod.
props and pieces are dressing. These games and stories aren't particularly faithful to their source material. They could happen in any setting, so long as deities are ruling over people. Yeah, I said it, the Norse stuff doesn't make a lick of difference. The snow's a vibe though, gotta admit. Elsewise, VP games have been mechanically complex, shaking up genre labels and assumptions. So, when Valkyrie Elysium was announced, critically not using the profile name, featuring a character that fans assumed was longtime character Hrist,
but different,
and all in a totally action framework. Well, let's just say fans took it pretty well.
Oh! Oh! 63 positive, 27 mixed, 65 negative. Oh, well, that's Jover. That is horrible. Okay.
This is the most boring, embarrassing video game I've ever garbage!
Holy sh**. But it's a really interesting discussion to root around in regardless, because Elysium here is—
She's fucking Naruto running. She's fucking Naruto running. The hands are already on the back almost. She is Naruto running. It looks pretty at least. At least it looks pretty. I like the art style already, but
all kinds of messy. This game's out here emitting pheromones, bro. You either find it enthralling, or you're thinking it's kinda stinky, and frankly, I'm not calling either reaction invalid. It's a weird-ass game. This isn't gonna be a needlessly dramatic, "This is the greatest betrayal for Valkyrie Profile fans," or
this is the game that changed my life.
It's none of those things. Well, let's start mashing square, and maybe we can cut a figure through play. Valkyrie Elysium is not a Tri-Ace game, but a project handed down from Square to relatively young developer Soleil, who've done...
Again, that's very interesting. Yeah, this wasn't a good decision, I can tell. This wasn't a very smart decision. Looking at the reviews of this game.
Some things. It's clearly a low-budget cash-in on nostalgia, or an attempt to bring the Valkyrie Profile IP into the 21st century. That's a pretty tightrope to walk, because old fans are always going to be pissed with any shift in direction. And the reality is, Valkyrie Profile isn't a big moneymaker. Tri-Ace's major franchise, Star Ocean, historically outsold Valkyrie Profile, even the weird ones.
Edge? Miracle? What do you think you're doing?
But I like this Star... Oh, okay, bro. I like this Star Ocean. Yes, even the weird one. That was my first Star Ocean. What do you mean? Of course I like it.
And the series more or less withered away, always doing good, but never landing household name status. I'd say fans are lucky to have what they do. Those classics are still around, still great, and...
Yeah, but still, if something doesn't make money, then you get probably weird directions in that specific case now.
Now there's an action VP game. I mean, I don't know if you've seen my channel before, but I'm interested. So Soleil went ahead and changed up the dressing, same fundamentals, different flavor, and now it's all the same,
but different.
Thousand Island to Ranch. You're still a Valkyrie in service to Odin, and you're really angry about it. Yes, Odin looks like the evilest person in the whole universe, but you're gonna have to ignore that. Naturally, there are humans. You're joined on your quest to save the world from the impending apocalypse by such characters as Daddy Orlando Bloom. This
Daddy Orlando Bloom's diabolical. But kinda true. He does look like Orlando Bloom.
person,
The woke agenda.
There's your woke agenda.
and a witch lesbian? I know I'm taking the piss here, but you gotta give Elysium points for pissing off all the right people. Elysium leaves a lot of details out, not unlike the other games. You're a Valkyrie, a lesser deity whose sole purpose is to serve Odin. He wants you containing threats to his power, so you do. I have a lot of mixed feelings, so forgive me for this, but I'm gonna start with the realistic, rough intro experience and grow this.
Well, you can't make fun of the woke agenda, but you know what's funny? The layoffs that Square Enix had. Deservedly so. Get fucked.
Take into something resembling admiration. Trust me on this. While I prematurely wet myself over the action game framing, Elysium doesn't do much to sell itself. I can't actually recommend this to people at full price. You'll hit the tutorial, get a grip on slashing, guarding, dodging, summoning allies in combat, solving environmental puzzles, and platforming. Then the game yanks all your stuff away and leaves you wondering when it gets fun again. You'll walk through a beautiful but barren hub zone, enter a level, and think, okay, this seriously released at full retail? Summoning allies is a huge part of the combat. Enormous part. Big part. Gigantic part of the
If this game was like $60 or something, obliterate whoever made it. I swear to God.
combat, and it takes a good while to get one, let alone the full roster. The early levels are slogs because of it. You're slashing away with your clumsy avatar on schmeedy health stacks, and it just ain't all that enticing. Maybe they want to sell the experience slowly because it's an old JRPG IP, and they're not sure if fans are up and up on action game mechanics. Okay, but counterpoint, Bayonetta and DMC simply do not care. That's what easy mode's for. Maybe they want to tell a winding tale of character growth that requires meeting new characters, your summonable allies, to, you know, really hammer home the weight of being alone. This is the likely answer, but if it's gonna be an issue, why not have proxy summonable guys, like gray faceless puppets or something, you know, keep the integrity of the combat intact for the full game. If you haven't tried the thing, you might be wondering why I'm making a thing out of this, but games live and die on first impressions. Most people don't finish games or give them appropriate playtime, and if the first impression is, well, this kinda sucks, the poor reception can't come as a shock. The real thing pinning this crummy situation down is the actual heft of the combat. Attacks are weighty, incredibly so, and it's accomplished by tacking long recovery frames.
This game is very slow. If you make an action RPG, it can't be this slow. What is this? That's horrible. This is horrible. This is okay. This is not good. Yeah, I'm not surprised.
To any given attack, a fair amount of hit stun and screen shake. Oh, and that really important action game thing, the C word. You can't meaningfully cancel out of attacks like other action game masterclasses. I mean, sure, you can shave some recovery time off of attacks by holding guard, but you're never truly canceling out. In fact, the only true cancels involve jump, which is not as good as it sounds, and it's necessary for the game's aerial juggles anyway, and canceling with the tether. You can pull yourself to any enemy on screen with a tap, but since it's accompanied by a lengthy animation, it's not a great cancel tool either. So the game is slow, heavy, mechanically heavy. Probably the most fitting game for the—
That's horrible. That is horrible. Yeah, nah, I don't know. The name change probably was needed, so it's not linked to profile. That is diabolical. Nah, that's not it.
the clunky label I've ever played. You will not be schmooving. You will not be hitting the gritty. This is a deliberate experience, but it's still couched in the action game lineage. It still wants you to perfect parry attacks. It wants you racking up combos, juggling enemies where possible. It's scoring you for your combat performance. Even after picking up the first two guys, combat doesn't fully round out until you've got a bunch of spells unlocked for utility,
very much a big fall off. This is a fall off. If you can't play the game the way it's intended, because you're missing, like, you get the stuff throughout the game, the combat feels slow. That is diabolical. Hi, Vegetable. How you doing? Hope you're doing good. Hello. No, this is Valkyrie Elysium. Valkyrie Elysium.
Got your full roster, and plug points all the way down all 3 skill trees. It's definitely a fun and frantic system, but you never know at first blush. Valkyrie Elysium's bosses aren't terrible. I have nothing really to say about them though, because they're traditional action game fare. You run, you hit, and you try to dodge your best, but the problem is you have these amazingly slow recovery times and really bad cancel ability, so you can only ever commit to a couple attacks safely. They use a lot of threatened spaces that they mark on the ground. The game's fine overall, except the intent is to break them by overcharging them with too much of the element they're weak to, and then wailing. So this makes them action RPG bosses as opposed to...
I have an important question. Did you just look at Devil May Cry and we're like, you know what? We have a not so profitable game franchise. We'll just turn it into that now. What was the goal here? Almost $60 for that game. I can tell why this flopped that hard. 30 max. 29.99 max. That's diabolical. In that months. Well, this is just an RPG, so it makes sense that it would die quickly. Sparking Zero should not die months in, but it did anyways.
Normal action game enemies. You have to inflict a status ailment, stun, in order to truly schmoove on them. I really can't get over how terrible the weapons are in this game. The fact that the main sword is the best, whatever. I played with the longsword through a couple of Dark Souls games. Fine. But handing the player a fast rapier, sold in-game as the fast weapon, and having its frames barely different, not in any way meaningfully different from the default weapon, is embarrassing. Add to that the slow two-hander, which is too slow to use in a game that will absolutely kill you in 2 seconds on any difficulty above hard, and you've got a recipe for never bothering with any kind of additional weapon at all. At least the dual spear is cool, but I'm saving the real combat breakdown for later. So let's talk everything else. The early Valkyrie profile games sold tired, collapsing worlds with a lot of visual signifiers, muted palettes and wary peasants and open spaces. The grandeur of the world was obvious, but it was a joyless grandeur. Stoic, I guess. Now I know the budget is $3, but man, the worlds are empty.
The budget is $3. Well, it looks like the budget was not there. And in combination with the change of combat system, which is like, why the fuck did you not just keep it, bro? Just keep it. Diabolical. So, as it is ranked now, Valkyrie Profile 1 is the best, then comes 2, then comes the DS title, and then whatever this abomination is.
Truly barren in that demo Unity game way. Like, they're done up pretty enough, and this is a world on the brink of an apocalyptic event, which is why you're mostly meeting souls, and like one single person. Wait. Zoomer. You really don't do much of anything in the world except move, poke around, and fight. The devs added a ton of little...
I'm waiting for him to say that it has this witty millennial writing. I'm waiting for it. I'm really waiting for it.
Blurb-producing plants that contextualize the humans who lived in any given area, dropping interesting story tidbits, or crap, it varies, and these cryptic, unreadable ones as well that are well hidden in each area. You need to collect them all before seeing the ending to get the true ending. You are gonna miss at least 3 of these. Elysium would be incredibly short if not for 3 major roadblocks: collectibles like the true ending plants, character progression in general, and combat. Creatures litter the world, and there's no real choice to run. You're boxed in and stopped frequently. And that's fine, it's a combat-centric game. You're supposed to want to fight, but there's a limit. I don't think I ever felt genuine exhaustion playing Bayonetta. A few times with God of War and late-game DMC5, for example, but they really throw combat after combat at you until it's offensive. You know, if more people played stuff like this and the new Gungrave, they'd understand why Bayo 3 really ain't all that bad. Character progression is the real trap. Elysium throws out a few side quests, which are actually miniature missions. You need to exit to the world map and play them out independent of story missions.
What are these decisions? And you thought people would buy this? You thought people would buy this in a time where a really big name such as Final Fantasy VII doesn't even properly sell it anymore. You thought people would buy this. What are we doing? What are we doing? When is Kingdom Hearts 5 coming out? Never. I don't trust Square Enix anymore.
Which only serves to tack on the hours, and for what exactly? Health and resource bar upgrades. Goody. I mean, occasionally you can pull an extra weapon type from the odd quest, but there aren't many, and they're not great. The default sword is tragically the best weapon in the game. There's no need to expand your arsenal. You definitely don't need any of the bar upgrades to win on normal, either. Possibly the worst issue here is the double level problem. You're often made to run through a pretty but boring level to its conclusion with endless HUD clutter, I might add. Get your grade, get your cutscene, and the next chapter is a rerun of the entire level to another objective. Guys, I know the budget's tight. I know COVID the dev cycle. I know you probably have a time limit to hit. But guys, and while the chapters are unique, simply doubling up on game time with more inane battles to run through, I mean, I don't want to call it soulless, but anything good and creative and joyful was marched out to die between the approval date and any of the factors I just listed. Might as well get the gamer gripes out. The voice acting is fine, if a little flat. Very few people give stellar performances, but it's just that kind of game, muted and grim and apocalyptic. What you gonna do? The personalities on the screen aren't incredible either. Silmeria took a back seat to Alicia, and Lenneth was a robot too, but her conviction was loud, and her story was almost entirely set aside for a series of gripping mini-dramas. Elysium tries, and fumbles.
In other words, to simplify the entire situation with the characters, nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares about the characters.
Focuses in on the main five and never really sells it. It's really hard to relate with a protag who's always robotic about everything on screen.
Why does she look so angry the entire time? Like, she looks even like, oh, my head! Angry face. Resting bitch face.
It's hard to get into characters whose greatest creative spark comes from their concept art, whose backstories are delivered purely in text. It's hard to get into the visual design when nothing is explicitly pulling you in. And the combat for the same reason. There's literally an execution you unlock that triggers at like 20%, and they had to have included it because they knew it'd be boring and miserable having to chunk down every last guy to every last hit point. All of the side quest stuff is annoying and superfluous, and I'm trying here, man, but like most of the game's elements, from empty environments to truly heavy combat to the sub-personality protagonist, narrative justifications exist. All of these make sense.
I think that's the first frame I've seen where she doesn't look like she's about to kill you. Crazy.
In context, consideration and artistry do, in fact, inform the work. Of course combat is heavy. It's angling for an incredible struggle with medieval brutes and their patron deity at the end of the world. Of course the Valkyrie is boring and focused on missions. Serving Odin is literally all she knows. It's an incredibly slow burn for an action game, but it's possible to see the good. So, advanced combat.
Advanced combat, oh god. The good! The good. How much good is there? That's a good portion of good, I guess.
VP games are known for their relative complexity, nerdy number shuffling, etc. Elysium lets players tweak all kinds of things. Which weapons to use, and what gems to slot into weapons for various benefits, which skills to upgrade even if those choices level out over time on normal mode. You can unlock new moves for your Einherjar by doing character-specific side quests. On one hand, almost none of this actually matters. You can keep everything default until the end of the game and slot in the percent damage increase gem on whatever weapon, but the option to customize is important, especially in a difficulty-focused action game. You're intended to challenge new heights and gain new appreciation for the system as you go. Normal mode sucks because nothing about normal is compelling. You roll into battle and dump everything you can. Combat becomes much more about keeping up momentum than being intelligent because the only threat to your life bar is not pinning down enemies hard enough. It's a very mashy experience and draining to play. play. But ticking the thing up past normal introduces limitations. Suddenly, you can't plug in every single skill point and overpower your character. You have to make decisions. Do you want the upgraded execution cutoff perk or better parries? I don't know. Figure it out. Setting aside the joy of higher difficulties, though they help because of the increased threat, the real quality.
I'm gonna be honest, if you need a harder difficulty for the game to function the way it's probably intended, or it's for it to be properly fun, there is a problem. There's a problem. Then that I don't think that is good in any way, shape, or form. I wouldn't call it the good. I don't consider that good. Like, if on normal it's a breeze, then that's not good. I have not seen the good yet.
The Valkyrie Elysium gameplay is found near the end. When you've got all your tools, when you've got your little preferred spell set up on hotkey, combat revolves around efficiently dispatching single enemies in a swarm. Every enemy has an element, each Anhiriar companion has an element, and sending them out charges your own weapon with their element. They attack on their own and do well enough. You're given the tools to obliterate basically every enemy in the game, minus a handful whose elements don't correspond with your Anhiriar. So you send them out, but that's not enough. You have to make intelligent choices about what weapon to use, when to swap elements, when to cast different spells, whether to cast damage or cast to heal because your casting is limited to a meter that refills by dealing damage, if you should use the invincibility garnered via spellcasting to become invincible to dodge an attack. And that's all before getting to actual combat mechanics. Parrying is incredibly useful, but fairly hard to land, and you're even given upgrades that grant the slowed time post-parry state for attacking into enemy attacks, because the system is so unwieldy, I assume. You have to meaningfully make use of regular moves, combos, juggles, parries when you can fit them, if you can fit them, because remember, you can't immediately cancel what you're doing into a parry like it's Bayonetta, and you make use of the tether and other combat mobility options like the dashing attack and directional jumping heavy attack. And I hope this sounds overwhelming because in case you were wondering if Elysium is squarely in the lineage of Valkyrie profile games, I think it's pretty obvious. Hey, remember when I talked about Ryu and Dante and Bayonetta embodying their personalities in play? Ryu Hayabusa with his deliberate, precise strikes, Bayo with her raw style and overt femininity, and Dante with a truly free and creative play? How about the point in the Kingdom Hearts video about Sora's theme park ride moves being perfect for the character because they embody the youthful, fun-loving spirit the kid so obviously retains throughout the games? Play embodying character is kind of the ultimate goal of an action game. Valkyrie Elysium hands you a dutiful, single-minded lesser deity commander figure, and every single thing you do on hard mode and up is complex, requires split-second decisions, deliberate play thanks to recovery times, threat assessment, and squad management. Valkyrie Elysium's combat is a beautiful, beautiful design triumph, even if you'll never stick around to find out. I know. KBash, it's an action RPG, not an action game. Stop popping off with all that, but hear me out.
I kind of feel like I don't see why I should play this still, though. Like, if I wanted an action game in any way, shape, or form, there's God of War, Devil May Cry, Bayonetta. There's probably other games that do it just probably very likely much better. I don't see what... Unless you're like a Valkyrie profile fan, I don't see why you should play this. Like, as like a standalone game.
This game legitimately uses a Ninja Gaiden technique, that essence charge stuff, directly in this game's combat system, integral to how it works. This game's parry might as well be Witch Time. Both of these are severely nerfed compared to how they appeared in their games of origin, but man, that is Ninja Gaiden! And more than the main game and its difficulties, there are, as always, things to do. The Seraphic Gate returns, but this time in an action game. We're going full-blown Bloody Palace, motherfucker. It's an incredible filter for old JRPG fans with terrible hands. And the Hilda's Vengeance mode is a decent time. It's just a full run of the game's levels and bosses backwards, and her gameplay is much more forgiving, high damage, and interesting overall. And look, she's got them proxy soldiers I talked about earlier early on? The answer to the early game issue was there the whole time. Hilda's fun specifically for letting the player tack additional timed inputs onto attack strings, letting your combo paths branch out in new ways. It makes the game feel less stale. It grants the player an amount of control over a clumsy system that really helps clear up the pain over not having good instant guard cancel or dodge cancel options. What's with action games and leaving the better, more enjoyable, cooler character to DLC, huh? In spite of my commander combat thing, Elysium isn't really telling a news story. It's a Valkyrie profile game. Literally. To the T. You follow Odin's instructions, you meet up with various troubled ghosts and recruit them as Unhiriar. And while this is all supposed to be dark and intriguing, the pervasive gloom and sullen performances, the flat atmosphere that permeates the runtime, though appropriate for the setting, it does nothing to endear the player. I don't know much about the soldier or the slave trader pretty boy or the knight, and I could read about them in-game. But why? In fact, the only
So it's an RPG, but the characters, nobody gives a shit. Wow, what a great RPG. Yeah, that's a fall off. That's a certified fall off. Here, take it. I'm throwing it at you. The certificate, certified fall off. Nah, I've watched the videos on the previous 3. That ain't it. This is not it.
The only thing that really made the party enjoyable came around the time the witch joined. She's surprisingly upbeat, really into the Valkyrie, and after hours of drab expressions and cold delivery, finally gets a smile out of the character. The thing felt good in that moment. It's exactly like everything else in the game. A slow burn to a mild payoff, but there's so little to go around, the emotional heft is elevated. Unfortunately, this humanizing process doesn't translate to the model. She's still, now and forever, Angie. Now we're gonna have to get into plot stuff, which really isn't like avoid at all costs levels like Xenoblade or Persona, so don't worry about it. Context matters more than the actual events. You're tasked by Odin to stop the impending disaster Ragnarok by going out and containing artifacts. You know the bit. Collect the plot coupons, save the world. Great. Only there's nothing really dramatic about it. Yes, the world will end if you don't is arguably sufficiently dramatic, but if the player puts the game down, no, it won't. And nothing actually hooks the player. Collecting Einherjar, doing a Valkyrie profile thing, gaining a mechanical benefit, that's the strongest draw to play, which inarguably chafes with the play experience because of how limp you feel until you collect them. Regardless, the only 2 shakeups in this collectathon plot are a Zoomer-coded individual who's notable for following the party around and being the only living human you see, ever. Whatever, we all know not to trust that dripped up young man. I mean, I'm sorry. Where you getting them threads, bro? How come your skin's all smooth? You moisturizing for the apocalypse, bro? Hilda occasionally pops in to challenge the player. She's a fallen Valkyrie, directly opposing Odin and serving Fenrir, who basically serves as the anti-Odin in the story. The issue is, these idiots are meant to tempt the player to the dark side, but there's a couple of problems. One, Fenrir's literally dripping with darkness and openly manipulative. It's not even subtle. You know when a YouTuber stretches as hard as possible to impart more meaning than necessary?
Yeah. Interesting. Also, is there an ending to this? Like, let's say you do get tempted, you do make the tempted choice. Do you, like, get an ending? I feel like that's a missed opportunity if that's not the case.
Or appropriate to, like, Mario in a bid to make you cry.
In most Mario games, you press A to jump. If only we all could simply tap a button and ascend beyond our limitations into new horizons.
That's Fenrir. And Hilda sits there laughing at the player the entire game over not understanding why Odin is bad, actually.
Deluded. Me. That's rich coming from one of Odin's puppets. Do you have any idea what it is that you are saying? I see. So you still don't.
Why are you stopping?
I just realized that this fight is a waste of time. There is mercy enough left in me to spare another of Odin's victims.
So explain it. Explain why Odin sucks. I'll save some time. She doesn't. So the 2 potentially dramatic story elements are either annoying or nothing.
I don't care what Odin told you to do.
Yeah, okay, stuff it, broccoli head. The only thing driving the plot is the doubt over Odin. What if Odin sucks? Actually. But, guys, did you see him? There's never been a more mustache-twirling, knife-licking psychopath in a Valkyrie profile game. This guy ties damsels to train tracks with music on full blast. Like, obviously he's evil.
You worthless imbecile!
And there he goes. What did I say?
Yeah.
Chuck, you ain't slick. Eventually, the Valkyrie turns against Odin.
I like this previous design more. The short hair Odin was better. Jeez. The short hair Odin was better. I feel like I have a general issue, and that's facial, and that's the facial expressions in general. There's not much facial expressions going on in general, especially, like, she looks angry all the time. She's supposed to be upbeat, but she doesn't really look upbeat, and he's just, like, neutral the entire time. Horrible.
And Fenrir, and has to choose the fate of the world. In the normal ending, you defeat Fenrir, but never actually curtail Odin's machinations. The game ends early because you didn't speak to the Zumi in the final stage, nor collect enough cryptic flowers. The good ending and the bad ending require talking to Armand here. Same as before, you need to avoid at least one of the secret collectibles and then have a talk. You get this opulent cutscene that actually keys into the Valkyrie profile legacy, trying to replicate the original romance between Lenneth and Lucian. They've got a similar story, and they even name-drop the Weeping Lilies. Except, this isn't one of the greatest PS1 JRPGs ever made. No one cares about Armand, and at this point, you're just baiting nostalgia, guys. I'm begging the scenario writer to have a pulse. Like, really, you're gonna whip out the one good scene and make it optional at the end of the game? After all this? Then you'll choose to run away with Armand, no thanks, or kill both Fenrir and Odin. A better ending all around, no real notes. The true ending is unlocked by collecting all the green flowers before starting the final chapter and doing everything else mentioned. You get your tearjerker, watch your friends poof, prevent Ragnarok, and take up the mantle of the gods to guide the world to a better future. Oh, and you get a scene with Armand too. Damn, is this Bayonetta 3? Because there's a better canon pairing right off stage left, bro. Now, Elysium does a lot of stuff right. In true Valkyrie profile fashion, it obfuscates a lot of your benefactor's motives until very late, and positions the gods as abusive, manipulative, exploitative, parasitic, in a word, evil. But their status is maintained by power, and
The overall problem with this game very likely very much underperformed and isn't liked at all is the combat. It's the combat and the characters probably as well. That's the reason. It's simple.
The illusion that a world steward must necessarily exist. But this premise is flawed. If souls are not used wantonly for the gods and instead returned to the world tree, the world can be maintained regardless. As a piece of dramatic fiction, Elysium isn't effective. As a solid analogy for real-world hierarchies and the myths that perpetuate them, Elysium's great. As a Valkyrie profile game, one of the first things to come out of Valkyrie Elysium discourse in general was the complaint that the Valkyrie doesn't get her finishing move, Nibelung Valesti, a Valkyrie profile tradition, until very late. In case you were wondering if the discourse was serious. If you really get down to it, Valkyrie Elysium's greatest story sin is refusing to show a series of powerful interpersonal scenes between party members. That's really it. And it's probably due to the budget and the dev cycle. Valkyrie Profile 1 had a few, and they killed. And that's when it wasn't making you watch people get killed. 2 took the time to show plenty of inter-party interactions, calm and reflective moments. It's a slower story, a less pressing drama for most of the runtime, but it earns its epic payoffs. Even Covenant of the Plume tried to capture the oomph of 1 and Matsuno-esque writing. It's at least aspirational. Elysium is comparatively flat, and its payoffs aren't strong. We don't really get to know anybody on screen. We barely feel anything because so little of it is quality drama or emotionally impactful. It carries the lineage with traces of tragedies past, with a dying planet, and with a band of friends staring down the world's last act. But I wasn't there, man. I just watched it. Elysium is pretty limp overall. It's a play, it's a vibe, it's a solid system, but it doesn't grab people like other masters of the action genre, and its hybrid elements aren't as enjoyable as something like the Trials of Mana remaster. That said, I know there's someone the game speaks to out there, someone terminally angry, someone sick of being manipulated or puppeteered around, of the lies propagated by crumbling institutions driven primarily by greed and power, someone who has a hard time relating to other people and working with others. And that person can have their game and feel like a hero, get their good ending. I'm here for that.
Hey, it's K.
I'm gonna be honest. There's nothing that makes me want to play this. Nothing. I look at it and nothing. The other three at least looked interesting. But this just has nothing. Like, if I wanted to play an action game, I could literally just whip out my phone, download Punishing Grey Raven, and have a much more fun experience, I feel like. Or Wuthering Waves. Like, as like an action game or action RPG. I kind of feel like it looks and from watching it feels very flat. And of course the characters, I don't give a shit for this time around. I don't know. I wouldn't play this. That's pretty much it. I wouldn't play this personally. Anyways, like, comment, and subscribe.